Hello. So here's the original copy of this document, all right? Let's suppose I make a photocopy of it. And then I make another photocopy from that copy. With each copy, there is a loss of resolution. It might be legible, but it starts to get grainy and more grainy, much more grainier with each copy because it's not the original. The same can be said about you and I when we live life as a photocopy. When you don't have your own purpose and you exert your passion towards the wrong things because you're trying to copy somebody else. There's some of us who are going to get into business because that business is lucrative, it has money, but you don't understand the functionalities, logistics, and dynamics of that business. You're going to go bankrupt. Some of us are going to go in debt, buying things we don't need to impress people who half the time don't like us with money we don't have in order to have social status like somebody else. Wearing Louis Vuitton and Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, you name it. Having somebody else's name on your back. Who has your name on their back? Who has your name in their mind, in their heart? Who carries your name in their life to say you've made an impact in their life? You've made a change. You've made a progressive improvement to their well-being, be it mental, emotional, social, financial, spiritual, political, in any sphere of life. Who has your name whilst you carry somebody else's name? And then you find yourself worthwhile having Louis Vuitton's name on your feet, on your back, on your head, whatever. Living life as a copy in order to have social status. Sometimes we're going to buy a certain brand vehicles because our neighbor or our friends, our inner circle people drive a certain brand of car. But it takes money to maintain that brand. You end up in debt. When your passion is exerted towards the wrong purpose, you're definitely going to sink. Definitely. Sometimes it's not necessary to always put your boat on the water. Understand how to row the boat first. Simply because somebody has theirs on the water, don't throw yours on there. Understand it first. And when you find that you have a passion and that it brings value, then you can pursue it. There's nothing wrong with aspiring to be as great as somebody or to do great things like somebody else did. But what is the purpose? Genesis chapter 3, if you read the whole chapter, please, I urge you to. It's a very short chapter. It's a beautiful read. It'll help you have contextual understanding, a comprehensive understanding of the content that I'm trying to share in this nugget, because I'm not going to be able to cover that whole chapter in a nugget. There's a lot of detail to be covered in that chapter. But verse 5 says, the serpent fooled Eve into eating the fruit, and he said to Eve, if you eat of this fruit, you're going to be like gods. And verse 6 says, when Eve looked at the fruit and she perceived it to be good food and that it was good to the eye and would make one wise, she took the fruit and she ate it. Here's the thing. She was already wise before she ate the fruit. She was already like God before she ate the fruit, because when God created Adam and Eve, he says, let us make mankind in our own image, meaning that we're already made in the DNA of God. And yet, because of gluttony, envy, jealousy, greed, and wanting to have a frivolous lifestyle, Eve and Adam ate of that fruit because they wanted to be like gods. Sometimes you're going to want to be like gods and not understand what it takes to be like God. Are you going to be able to answer all the prayers of 9 billion people in this world, 8 billion, how many ever we are in this world, and still be able to control the environment and make sure the moon and the stars and that the sun is not an inch too close to Earth and an inch too far from Earth where people can burn and freeze? Are you going to be able to manage the whole galaxy? Wanting to be like God. So wanting to be like somebody else you lose what you already have, the value that you already have. You're already made in the image of God. You're already unique as you are. If you consider the rare minerals, as they call them, silver, gold, diamonds, you name it, nickel, and all these minerals, they say they are rare, when yet you can mine gold in parts of Canada, parts of United States, parts of Australia, Africa, Asia, you name it. You can find all these minerals in all these places, but they're still called rare. If they are rare, then how much more rare and unique are you when there's only one you in all those continents that I just mentioned? North America, South America, Australia, Europe, Asia, Africa, Antarctica, you name it. There's only one you. How much more rare can that get? And yet, half the time we give up our uniqueness in order to copy somebody else and be like somebody else. You'll have people go, inject themselves with this and that in order to look like certain of celebrities, or do certain things in order to look like a certain of people in their circles or in their neighborhood. Like I said, buying things we don't need to impress people who half the time don't like us with money we don't have, trying to be like a copy. You lose resolution and you lose value because you're giving up your uniqueness. So as you get in business this year, or education, maybe a relationship, do it because you have the right purpose for doing that. Exert your passion towards the right purpose. It's okay to aspire, like I mentioned, but be careful not to be a copy. And as you draw yourself closer to God, don't do it because God is an ATM. Do it because you want a relationship with Him. Don't just go with emotions. The whole world talks about, our prayers are with you. To whom are you praying? Do you really understand what you're saying? Don't just be a copy. Find out what that means. Apply it in your life. Because living life as a copy will have you lose a whole lot more than what you already were. And I can prove it to you. I'll close this nugget this way. If you read towards the end of that chapter, Genesis chapter 3, after they'd eaten the fruit, and God said, well, these folk have eaten the fruit. And so they're going to be like gods, knowing good and evil. And seeing as they now want to be like God, they might eat of the fruit of the tree of life and they'll live forevermore. So let's take them away from the garden before they eat that tree. You know what that means? The one tree that they were told not to eat really didn't have much of a benefit for them, because there was another tree where they were allowed to eat that would give them life evermore. We would live eternally, immortal, completely timeless. But we gave all that up in order to want to be a copy so that we can be like gods, because the devil himself wanted to be like that, and he fooled us into being a copy. And he keeps telling us that we're not worthwhile and we're not worth anything in this world, in this social sphere, if we're not a copy of somebody else. Because had we not eaten that fruit, we would have eaten the fruit of life evermore, because we weren't forbidden from eating that fruit. That fruit is now mentioned towards the end of the chapter to say, well, they chose this fruit, so now they can't eat this other fruit. When yet we were not forbidden from having the fruit of the tree of life evermore. We gave up our value because we wanted to be a copy. Stop being a copy. Know your self-worth. Know your value. And you find that everything you touch and everything you do will prosper. There's going to be challenges. I'll always remind you of that. But if you have the purpose and you put the right passion, the right drive into your value, God will make it happen for you. Keep the faith. Trust in Him. Believe in yourself. Be an original. Stop being a copy. Thank you for joining me on Nuggets of Wisdom. Please, please subscribe, share. Ask questions, comment, discuss, put out any ideas of other things and any other topics that you might want covered. And let's grow together. Let's mature as we edify one another. I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a good one.